The New York Knicks did it. After decades of waiting, frustration, rebuilding, heartbreak, and near misses, they finally stood at the top of the basketball world again. But what happened after the 2026 championship didn't just feel like a win, it felt like a takeover, not just a title, a shift in the entire NBA. It started the moment the final buzzers sounded in Game 5 of the finals. Confetti raining down, players collapsing to the floor, fans in Madison Square Garden in disbelief that it was real, and fans in San Antonio shocked that their team lost. The Knicks had closed out the series and sealed for the championship. For most franchises, that's the ending. For New York, it was the beginning of something bigger. Jalen Brunson stood at center court holding the trophy, looking around like he was trying to memorize the moment. He wasn't the loudest superstar in the league. He wasn't the flashiest, but now he was the most important, the leader of a team that had just changed everything. In the locker room afterwards, there wasn't chaos at first. There was silence, the kind of silence that comes when people don't know what to say after achieving something they've dreamed about their entire lives. Then it broke. Music, shouting, water bottles flying, cameras everywhere. But even in that celebration, one thing was clear. The Knicks weren't satisfied. Because this team wasn't built like a one-time champion. They were built like a system. The next morning in New York City, the energy was different. It wasn't just a celebration. It was dominance. Parade planning started immediately. Streets were shut down. Fans filled Manhattan like it was a holiday. The city that had spent years of being patient finally got its moment back. But behind the scenes, the organization was already thinking ahead. The front office met within 48 hours of their championship clincher. Most teams celebrate weeks before thinking about the future. The Knicks didn't. Their message was simple. This isn't the end. This is the standard now. Players started to notice it first. Practices didn't slow down. Film sessions didn't get easier. The coaching staff, led by Mike Brown, made one thing clear. Winning once wasn't enough. The league would adjust. Everybody would come for them. The moment the Knicks won the NBA Finals, everything changed. But not in the way most people expect. There's no slow off-season fade. No championship hangover. No waiting for things to settle. Because New York does not settle. The second the final buzzer hits, cameras flood the floor, confetti rains down over Madison Square Garden, players are jumping, hugging, screaming, but in the middle of it all, Jalen Brunson is just standing there for a second, holding the trophy, almost frozen, not because he's surprised, but because he knows what comes next. Winning it all is one thing. Staying on top is something completely different. And in New York, staying on top might be harder than anything that got them there. The moment the playoffs started, it didn't feel like a fresh start for the league. It felt like the Knicks picking up right where they left off. All the talk going into the postseason was about matchups, adjustments, and whether someone had finally figured out New York's style. Analysts talked about their physical defense, their half-court offense, and whether Jalen Brunson could still control games when every possession mattered. But the second Game 1 tipped off, all of that disappeared, because nothing about it looked up for debate. The Knicks came out playing like a team that already knew how the story was going to end. No panic, no filling out process, no hesitation, just control. Every possession in the playoffs started to feel heavier for their opponent. Not because the Knicks were doing anything flashy, but because they forced everything into their own pace. If you wanted to run, they slow you down. If you wanted to go physical, they'd match it and pushed harder. If you wanted to win in late games, they made sure you didn't even reach the final minutes with momentum. That became their identity instantly. The first round wasn't about highlight moments. It was about suffocation. Teams would hang around for a quarter, maybe even a half, but by the third quarter, the pattern always showed up. The Knicks would tighten up defensively. rotations getting sharper, communications get louder. The Knicks were by far the best halftime team in these playoffs. And then, once the halftime hits, Brunson would take over. Not in the sense of scoring 50 every night, but in the sense of controlling everything. He dictated tempo like he had access to the game's rhythm that no one else could hear. He would slow down fast breaks just enough to reset into half-court possession. He would walk defenders into screens instead of rushing them. He would force switches at the exact right time. And when the defense finally broke down, he punished it without hesitation. Mid-range pull-ups, controlled drives, late clock execution that looked effortless even when the pressure was at its highest. By the second round, teams started adjusting everything just to slow him down. They tried trapping him earlier, they tried switching bigger defenders onto him, they tried speeding the game up to tire him out. Nothing worked. Because the problem wasn't just Brunson, it was the system behind him. The Knicks' defense in the playoffs became something close to a wall that kept rebuilding itself. One mistake didn't just lead to a bucket, it led to momentum dying completely. Every rotation felt like it erased options for the offense. Every closeout felt like it removed confidence from shooters. Opponents started missing shots they normally would make without thinking. Not because they suddenly got worse, but because every possession felt like it had a cost. By the conference finals, when they faced Cleveland, the Knicks weren't just winning games. They were controlling emotional momentum. They were dominating Cleveland. They were dominating James Harden and Donovan Mitchell. They beat the Cleveland Cavaliers in 4 games after a dominant sweep. And then, they take on the San Antonio Spurs, coming off a win in Game 7 against the defending NBA champions, the Oklahoma City Thunder, and the MVP, SGA. Wembanyama goes into Game 1, loses. Game 2, loses. The New York Knicks are just absolutely insane. The Spurs had no answer for Jalen Brunson, and the Knicks had every answer for Victor Wembanyama. In Game 3, the San Antonio Spurs finally take a game, but we gotta talk about Game 4. Because the Spurs came out strong. They came out so amazing. They came out almost perfect. They came out like the obvious better team. But like I said in the beginning of the video, the Knicks are the best halftime team in the playoffs by far. And that showed in Game 4. And once that game ended, there was no debate that the Knicks just won the finals off that game alone. As soon as the San Antonio Spurs blew a 29-point lead, I was like, yep, the Knicks just won. Then in Game 5, the closeout game for the NBA Finals, Jalen Brunson explodes for 40 plus points. Like they had no answer for that man. And the New York Knicks defeat the San Antonio Spurs in 5 games. And the Knicks, they were underdogs. They were the biggest underdogs in this finals. Everyone thought the Spurs were going to win. Everyone thought Victor Wembanyama was going to dominate these finals. Everyone thought the Spurs were going to carry on that momentum they had against the Thunder going into the finals. But in reality, everything they were saying about the Spurs carrying the momentum into the finals, it was actually the Knicks that carried that momentum into the finals. The Knicks went on an 11-game win streak going into the NBA Finals, and they dominated the San Antonio Spurs, surprisingly. And Jalen Brunson is your Finals MVP. Congratulations to the New York Knicks for winning the NBA championship. I know New York is going absolutely insane right now, but hey, the Knicks are finally NBA champions for the first time in over 5 decades. No NBA analyst, no NBA fan thought that a small point guard under 6'2" can bring a team to an NBA Finals and win it. The last time a small under 6'2" point guard brought a team to an NBA Finals was Allen Iverson, and he barely won a game against the Los Angeles Lakers. We've had point guards win like Steph Curry and Magic Johnson, but never a point guard that was under 6'2", and Jalen Brunson does it with the New York Knicks. Will the Knicks be NBA champion favorites going into next season as the defending champs? We'll have to find out. I'll see you guys in the next one.